And then it seemed there was a miscarriage. What do you do with that? It's part of the 8. And then you get to number 8, and it's a girl. So this was confusing, to say the least. Kamsa is what happens when you're a demon. And so when he came in, Devaki begged him, don't kill this child. But he did it anyway. He couldn't help himself. A lot of momentum behind what he was doing. How he killed so many, it makes it easier to kill more. And besides, he was really determined to stamp out Krishna so that he wouldn't be impeded in his rule over the world, which is sort of a metaphor for every living entity in the world. And so now the girl flew up into the sky and turned out to be Kamsa's worshipable deity, Durga, and said, hey, you idiot. And he got a lot of respect for Devaki after that. It's like, wow, my deity came from you. So he's confused. And he's also repentant for a few minutes, which is something that comes up a lot. That those who are on the material platform, you know, is just those who have a solid foundation in worshiping Krishna, they actually develop really good qualities that are consistent, or I should say that are persistent. However, those who don't, although they may manifest good qualities, they can recede at any time. In fact, I saw a sign on the way back home yesterday. It said, nothing recedes like success. Kind of a nice negative message. Okay, so this is now Vasudeva. After Kamsa has tried to kill the child, and then Kamsa becomes repentant and says, you know, actually we're not our bodies, and this is, don't be too upset about all this, because really we're all being compelled by karma to do these types of things. And then in a brief rejoinder, as Vasudeva is going along with this, because why wouldn't you? It's partly true that's what Kamsa is saying. Prabhu points out in the purport, of course, Kamsa is devotee, but underneath it all, or it's Leela, I should say, and therefore he's presenting a particular view behind the scenes, and so to some degree it's true. In another way that Vasudeva is being diplomatic and going along with the philosophy that he's presenting. So Kamsa has made all these points, and now I'll continue with it word for word. He called him, "O great personality," did Vasudeva, referring to Kamsa, "Yata," as Vadasi, you are speaking, Dehinam, about living entities, accepting material bodies. Ajnana Prabhava, by the influence of ignorance. Aham ti, this is my interest. False ego. Saparaditi, this is another's interest. Vida, differentiation. Yata, because of such a conception of life. Translation: O great personality Kamsa, only by the influence of ignorance does one accept the material body and bodily ego. What you have said about this philosophy is correct. Persons in the bodily concept of life, lacking self-realization, differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. Everything is done automatically by the laws of nature, which work under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no question of doing anything independently. For one who has put himself in this material atmosphere is fully under the control of nature's laws. Our main business, therefore, should be to get out of this conditioned life and again become situated in spiritual existence. Only due to ignorance I'm God. Unless one is fully self-realized, one's life of ignorance will continue. I offer my respectful obeisances thousands of times to the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, A.C. Charter, National Site for Krishna Consciousness, to all of my senior God brothers and sisters who are present here today, and to all the Central Russia. So, what comes to my mind in reading this section of the Bhagavatam, with Kamsa interacting with Vasudeva and Devaki, is the term, it's a psychological term, cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, of course, cognition refers to our consciousness. Dissonance means that there's a disharmony. And there are examples of cognitive dissonance which we may be familiar with. In fact, I will argue for a minute here, if you'll allow me, that all of the difficulties we experience in life are a cognitive dissonance created by misidentification with matter. We are spiritual, as Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about lower and higher energies, bhumir, apu, analo, vayu, etc. And then he says, aparayamitasthanyam prakritim vidime param. Besides these lower energies, there's you. There's the conscious being. You have cognition, which is different from earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. Even the subtle elements like mind, intelligence, and ego are not cognitive. However, you are, and that's amazing. In fact, he describes in the second chapter, elsewhere, the soul as being amazing. Of course, everything's kind of amazing as God's energies, but the soul's the most amazing aspect. If you look at the Upanishads, what they're really doing is coming to a point of pointing to ourselves, or asking us to look at ourselves and say, if you want to see a sample of the Supreme, look at yourself, you're a little sample. And so then there's the combination of the two, and that becomes a problem. As is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, famous verse by Abhiyogendra, where he says, Payam dvitiya abhiniveshatasya ishat apetasya viparagayo smriti, which very simply means that you're turned around in the wrong direction and you've created a cognitive dissonance. Dvitiya means two things. Literally, I'm saying it means you're seeing two things. Dvi means two. And dvitiya means you're absorbed, abhiniveshita, and seeing two things. However, there is only one thing, and that is there's the Supreme, or God. We're all parts and parcels of God, albeit there's Achinta Beta Tattva, or simultaneously one and different. That leads to another topic, which is spiritual cognitive dissonance. Nonetheless, on the material platform, when we're in a material body and we identify ourselves with the body, as Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, I'm a demigod, I'm a human being, I'm a dog, etc. This is not accurate. And I'm thinking that I'm separate from the Supreme. And therefore, there's payam, or fear. And this creates a cognitive dissonance. So whatever anybody does in this world, basically, some psychologists argue, is a distraction from the fact that we have to again face leaving behind this material body. In fact, Patanjali Muni in the Yoga Sutras said that this is the most prominent samskar, or impression, strong impression within the mind and heart of every living being, because we've all done it so many times, and that is leave the body, the material body behind, and take another one. We don't like it very much. You think Paul McCartney would like it? It's a pretty good program to be Paul McCartney. It's like, okay, you can't be Paul McCartney anymore. It's like, no, I would like to stay. It's like, no, you can't. Or take anybody, it doesn't matter. Paul McCartney, he's probably come to a point of recognition beyond that, but maybe not. And the problem is that I identify with my material body, and then I suffer because of it. And this is because I'm holding this sense, which is a false sense that I'm the material body. So throughout this pastime, we have this a sense of Kamsa speaking about self-realization. He's just talked about how we're not our bodies, we're just passing through, but he's acting differently. And this is the very essence of cognitive dissonance. One of the examples that people often give is if you're an animal lover. Animal lovers? Okay, a couple of you. Then let's just say if somebody was an animal lover and then they eat meat. This is a classic example of cognitive dissonance. The other day at Times Square, I met a veterinarian, and thank goodness she was a vegetarian. So, good for you. Probably, I said otherwise, there would be this maybe conflict of interest, which is conflict of interest is another expression of cognitive dissonance. And another classic example of cognitive dissonance is smoking. In fact, I think in India or somewhere, some airplane I was on where they insist that you take a look at their duty-free products before you land, and they push the cart down, they sell cigarettes. And on some packages, they actually show gruesome images of people who have cancer. It's on the packet itself. In America, it just says, hey, stupid. Don't inhale smoke over and over again. But other places it's not good enough, so they put a picture of somebody who's basically been eviscerated because of cancer, and you can see their innards hanging out. And still, it's like, yeah, I'll take 3 of those. This causes a kind of cognitive dissonance that I know it's the wrong thing, but I do it anyway. Can you relate to that? Yes. Okay, makes me feel better. That's where I live. So this is a problem. This is the main problem that everyone has. And therefore, we have to come out of dissonance and into resonance. And we'll notice that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is about taking the vibration from the spiritual world. Again, I spoke about this in the beginning about Srimad Bhagavatam, Tadbhav Visargo Janatava Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadya Bhaktipi Lamanyanantasya Yashom Kitani and Srimvati Gayanti Grinanti Sadhava. The sense is here, there's a higher vibration that we actually resonate with as souls. When we hear that sound vibration, the Bhagavatam says, then Viplava, we come back into resonance. We come out of the cognitive dissonance and we become aware that I'm actually not my body. It's not that people aren't aware of this. Everyone's aware of it, but they deal with it in different ways. There are therapies. My father was a psychotherapist, and I know he would talk to people, sometimes for 12 years, he had patients. Yeah, because he said it takes a long time. Talking and discussing it so that people can see, like, this is who I am. This is what I'm dealing with. Most people don't even know what they're dealing with. They just are confused by it. They're out of resonance. They're in dissonance, but they don't even know it. They just think it's normal, but it just doesn't. They don't feel right. Nobody feels right in the material world. You just can't get comfortable here, right? Or is it just me? Right. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srimad Bhagavatam said, come back into resonance. It's actually a simple process. If you hear the sound vibration from the spiritual world, you hear commonsensical information even that assuages the intelligence and brings it back off the ledge, back into safety. And you hear the holy name, and Chaito Dharpana Maharjana. We say that this sound vibration can actually soothe the soul, can put out fire of cognitive dissonance that we've developed from being in a material situation for so long. And this can be achieved. As I was about to say, many people deal with it, and people deal with this in their own ways. And there are processes of yoga meditation through which one tries to still the mind, as Patanjali mentions in his first sutra. This is the goal of the yoga. But we hear about great personalities like Vishwamrita, who spent 10,000 years doing that. And then he came back into dissonance. He heard a sound vibration, the ankle bells of an apsara. I mean, he was meditating. He was doing vipassana, just, being calm, shanti. And then he heard the ankle bells. They resonated with something inside him that was still attached to the material world. It was a samskar. There was a samskar there. It resonated with that samskar. And then he opened his eyes and said, I'm out of here. After 10,000 years. What a waste of time. 10,000 years. So Bhagavatam is a more potent approach. The chanting of the holy name means that you actually overwrite these samskars. There's a way in which code can be overwritten. Engineers? Anyone? Back me up. Okay, thank you. And similarly, the samskars can be overwritten by more powerful ones, which is in our practice, hearing about Krishna, like Yatpada Pankacha Palasa Vilasya Karmashrayam Gratitam Utkritayanti Santa Tadvana Riktam Atayo Yatayo Viruda Shotoganas Tamaranam Vasadeva. The four Kumaras say this process of devotional service is so powerful because you actually overwrite the impressions that you have within your mind that cause this cognitive dissonance and attachment to the material world. You overwrite it with the resonant sounds of the spiritual world. This is what it means. Yapada pankacha palasa vilasa. It's beautiful poetry in and of itself, and then it's saying that there's beauty in the spiritual world. The aesthetics of the spiritual world is so attractive to us, to the soul. The beauty of Krishna, the sound vibration from the spiritual world, which is the most important aspect of our movement. It's all based on Shruti. There are 16,000 ragas that come from each individual gopi in the spiritual world. And there's actually a raga for every species of life. The whole world moves by music and sound vibration. But it's out of resonance. It's dissonant because it's based on the body. People sing songs, I love you, yeah. But what's it about? It's misdirected. It's about I'm the body, you're the body, let's all get together. That's the basic theme, in case you didn't know. And then you get this dissonance. But the sound vibration from the spiritual world is Krishna is the most beautiful lover, son, or a friend. And yes, let's get together in yoga. Let me serve you. And so this is the solution to the problem. And in the verse going back to Payam Dvitiya Biniveshatasya, the problem is I'm absorbed in this dissonance of thinking I'm my body, others are their bodies. And therefore it says, Tanmaya Tam Buddha Abhijatan Bhakyaikayeshan Buddha Devatapa. Fix your mind in one place on the process of devotional service through a hearing about Krishna, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna. And then you can cure this dissonance. So now we'll take a few reflections to expand the conversation. Anything that you heard that you think is worth expanding upon? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the course. So as you mentioned that we all know that we are not this body.
Okay, she said, we all know we're not these bodies. It becomes a microphone with two short cable. So if anybody has questions back there.
So we all understand intellectually to know that we are not this body. So my question to you is you also mentioned that this process will help us to get rid of this dissonance, right? So is there anything we need to do apart from following this process, as in consciously reminding ourselves, or I mean, is there anything else, or this process will work automatically?
Get an alarm clock. Like there are other things to do because we're living in a duality. We have the body. Like this morning, I was very tired last night. I have to admit, it was a long day. And so I set my alarm clock for 3:15, but I didn't get up till 5 till 4 because somehow or other I didn't put my alarm clock on. I should have pulled the little thing up, but I didn't. Luckily, my wife woke me up and said, "Hey, it's 5 to 4, get up." So yeah, there are things you have to do. This is called Vaidhi Bhakti. You have to organize your life in such a way that you can be there for the vibration. That's what it means. Because the body's used to doing whatever it wants to do. But we have to regulate, organize our life in such a way that we can always be in the vibration. I went to Mangalarti. I was very happy about it. Vishnu Gada Prabhu led Mangalarti. I lived with him in 340 West 55th between 8th and 9th. We had a temple there. It's like 14 stories. And he's one of my favorite kirtan leaders. And I remember Mangalartiks there, he would sing and I'd feel happy. And this morning he sang and I stood right behind him and said, "I'm happy. I don't want to be anywhere else." And I'm not only that, I'm glad I'm at Mangalarti. And I also owe my wife one because she woke me up at 5 to 4. So yes, you have to do other things. That means, live in an ashrama. Ashrama, the word ashrama, shrama means working hard for nothing. Familiar? J-O-B, just over broke. Yeah, everyone's working hard. So you make a lot of money, and then in America, it all gets taken back because the government wants all your money before they'll give you any insurance for medical things. And everyone gets sick when they're old. So something happens. So you work hard and then you lose it all. That's the story of the material world. But that's shrama. But ashrama means you organize your life wherever you may be, under a tree, in an apartment, in a duplex, triplex, whatever it happens to be, in such a way that you're not doing shrama. You're actually making advancement. As they say here in New York, you never go broke taking a profit. So get profit out of life by organizing your whole environment so that you can be there for the vibration. That's all you have to do, is be there for the vibration, but that takes a lot of work. For example, we have this retreat that we take part in every Kartik. It was 19 years in a row. It was ruined by the pandemic. Thanks, pandemic. We go to Govardhan Hill and we stay in there and we listen to Bhagavatam for 5 hours a day in a room with devotees, and we're happy. But what it takes to actually get there is a big deal. To actually sequester yourself and to organize so nobody can get at you, and really be in the place. And plus, it's only 5 hours out of 24, and I'd say that's not very much. And what do you do in the rest of the time? Well, getting there, getting into that space, and that's the same with almost every yajna, because there's a part in the middle that really counts. But in the beginning, you have to prepare for it. Like cooking, it takes a long time to grow the food, pick it, bring it in, chop it up, get it ready, turn on the stove, get pots and pans. That takes a lot of work. Cleaning up takes even more work. But once it's cooked and offered, it takes you a few minutes to honor it, right? But that's the important part. So we have to organize. We always have to be preparing so that we can be in the vibration. And this is what Rupa Goswami says is the essence of all advice. Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtanama Smrityo Kramena Rasanam Rasini Yoja Tishtan Vraje Tananuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayet Akilamitu Upadesh Saram. He said, here's the saram of Upadesh. The essence of all the advice that you're looking for is that you should organize your life around the principle that you could always be there in the right place at the right time to hear the transcendental vibration. Haribo. Just like you're doing right now. Okay, 1, 2. 1, 2. And we have 4.5 minutes. And it's a hard stop because the conch blows. I know how it works here. Go ahead.
This theme of responsibility really resonates with me, that we have to be there for the vibration themselves, get ready, prepare, be there. And I was just really appreciating what Srila Prabhupada said here in the purport. For one who has put himself in this material atmosphere is fully under the laws of nature. So it's our responsibility, it's our fault.
That's the quintessential Vaisnava attitude. Tatenu kampam susamikshamana bhunjana eva kritam vipakam. Vipakam, if you've read the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, that word will sound familiar. It's same word, vipakam and kumbhipaka. You know kumbhipaka? I hate to bring these up. I know there's a family show. It's the morning time, but there's a way in which there could be a reaction where if you cook other living entities, then you get cooked. That's all I'm going to say. So that's kumbhipaka. So basically what the verse means is, have you ever heard this phrase? You cooked your own goose? Do you have that? Like you cooked yourself. That's what the verse means. Tatenu kampam susamikshamana bhunjane eva kritam. The devotee is saying, I got the pot. I put it on the stove. I turned on the fire, put it in the water. I got in the pot. And I even got the spoon and I'm stirring it around. And I'm in the pot. That's me cooking myself. You did it to yourself, sir. So that's important to remember, because any self-respecting self-help guru will tell you the same thing. If you don't take responsibility, you can't get out of the situation you're in now. Nice point. And the last one.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
You mentioned a beautiful point that Tamashiyam that the samskaras are really uprooted completely. But we do find that the samskaras come back again and again. So what would be evidence that actually the samskaras are completely gone?
Then you have no more propensity to criticize others. That's one of the ways that Rupa Goswami describes the Uttama Adhikarya. He says, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadri dikshasti chet pranati bishta bhajantam isham shushushaya bhajana vikna mananyamanya nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. Nindadi shunya, you no longer are envious of other people, because the prominent feeling in the material world is envy. Icha dvesha smutena dvandam mohina bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge anti parantapa. Krishna says everyone's born into this feeling of envy for other living entities. So the Bhagavatams, for those who are nirmat sarana, no longer have that sense. What a relief, right?
Yes.
If you didn't envy other, and when we hear devotees glorify other devotees for their service, like God, I know I always think, God, I wish I could do that too. Just unabatedly appreciate the service rather than thinking, darn, why are they so good and I'm so bad? And this is the tendency in the material world. So this is one of the symptoms when we start to see that's going away. And it's possible by the reformation of the heart that takes place by the process of devotional service. Thank you for your kind attention. We thank Srila Prabhupada for giving us this direction. And if we stay focused on hearing the direction of the Acharya and we follow, then we will feel relief for having stepped out of the cognitive dissonance that's created by trying to follow our own path. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Kripasandave Chapatitanam Pavanibyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Dantakoti Vaishnavaniki Jai. Vaisesika Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Should you leave the meeting? No?
Thank you, Anupam Prabhu. Thank you, Adi Prabhu. Thank you very much. We did it. You did it. Thank you. Okay, Rameshwar Naik Prabhu, Bhakti Yoga Prabhu, Hemangi Yogeshwari, Anand Singh, Kartik, the scientist, Suzanne, Radhika, Venetia, Krishnadaya Das, Jatin, Julie, Nachi, Pat Dunphy. Wow, what a crowd. Jason, Karuna Garanga Prabhu, Champakalata Saki, Devidasi, Gail was here. Oh, Gail, I bet you had questions. All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Haribol, Bhakti Yuga, honoring Prashanam. During class, Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bhima Prabhu, good seeing you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
We like your japa spot. Bhima Prabhu is on top of the mountain on a little chair, chanting his rounds with burning tears. Yes, there he is.